I love living in Middle Tennessee. We've got great restaurants, entertainment, sports, and one of the nation's top Ford dealers right here in our backyard. Two Rivers Ford. Remember that name. Two Rivers has been a staple in our community since 1983. They're locally owned. They have a non-commissioned sales team, and they sell below MSRP. They've been doing business with integrity for decades. Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer.
Happy Friday. You made it. Hopefully you're dry. Hopefully you're not affected by Hurricane Helene that is just ripping through the southeastern part of the country right now. I hope if you're listening to us in Florida or anywhere around the southeast that's impacted, like I said, hope you're safe. I've got family in Tampa. It looks like an absolute mess down there. Record high flooding in a state that is pretty accustomed to it at this point. And we're, of course, getting a little bit of the after effects of that here in Middle Tennessee through the weekend. 615-737-1045, the number. There's no football for the Vols or the Titans this weekend. You got to wait until Monday night and wait until next weekend for the Vols to get back in action, but we are still going to talk about a lot of different things related to the Titans, related to the Vols, national title expectations. Coach Mack is going to be here. Jarvis Brownlee is probably going to start at corner for you in Miami. He's getting a bit of a homecoming situation, the rookie fifth-round pick out of Louisville, because Chido Awuzie is not yet on injured reserve. They keep saying they're going to do it. I don't know if it's just like a clerical thing, like they...
And it's been reported, right?
Oh, yeah. No, Brian Callahan has said that they're putting him on IR. It's just, I guess they haven't done it yet. So perhaps they're awaiting a corresponding roster transaction. If it's going, I mean, obviously he has to miss at least 4 games if they place him on IR. So maybe they're waiting until the last final, okay, let's do it on Friday type of situation. Or I guess they don't have to do it technically till Saturday, because this team will have Saturday preparations before a flight down to Miami on Sunday. And the game on Monday night. You can call us, like I said. You also have access to the F&M Bank chat, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. You said you're doing high school football tonight?
I'm doing high school football tonight.
Did you tell me that school is canceled, but they're still playing high school football games?
Wilson County schools are out with inclement weather, but Green Hill High School is at Gallatin High School tonight. I will be out there at Calvin Short Field, the home of the Green Wave, and I am excited. This is football weather. Windy, rainy, muddy. You live for this type of stuff.
Did you, do you live for this type of stuff?
When I'm
high-level competitor, football guy among all football guys, Lucas Panzika.
When I'm dry in a press box. When I'm dry in a press box, yes.
Did you ever play in a mud game?
I never got to play in like a legit mud game.
Oh, my God.
No. But, I mean, as a kid, I always liked playing outside in the mud.
Sure. Who among us? So, bad football last night between the Cowboys and the Giants. A couple of things to take away that are relevant to the local professional team, because I had 2 Titans-related thoughts watching that game, but I'll get to them here in just a second. It's 14-9 at half. Neither team had a touchdown in the second half.
You okay?
Oh, yeah, I just figured to clear my throat with my mic off would be better than coughing directly into the microphone for everybody to hear the phlegm.
But it didn't work because Lucas's mic picked it up because it was so loud.
It's like when he burps and it echoes across my microphone.
Exactly.
I'm trying to be a professional here, all right? Help me help you. Anyway, 14-9 at half. Neither team scored a touchdown in the second half. Malik Neighbors.
Clear your throat.
Leaves with a concussion. Micah Parsons leaves with an ankle/left foot injury. So the 2 most exciting players on either team, well, I guess CeeDee Lamb is a pretty exciting player for the Cowboys. He had a touchdown last night, but still.
On the same play, right?
Right after, I believe. I think it went Neighbors concussion first, and then on the next play was the Micah Parsons injury.
Yeah, because with Neighbors, it was the 4th down attempt. Jones trying to find him on the sideline, and he took a big hit, his head bouncing off the turf on that sideline, and that's what got him out. And it's a shame because he was having a phenomenal game and is very much in the conversation for Offensive Rookie of the Year.
Did you see how many games in a row Dak has beaten the Giants?
What is it?
13. He has won 13 straight games against the lowly New York Giants, who are allergic to the red zone or the end zone because all they could do was muster some field goals throughout the course of that. And Daniel Jones was fine. Like, Daniel Jones was not the problem. I know he had an interception at the end of the game. He's just trying to make something happen. But
both quarterbacks were fine.
They were both fine. Daniel Jones was efficient enough. Like, there were no disaster plays there the way that you typically associate that quarterback with having at least one brain fart per 60 minutes.
After the season the Giants had last year on the offensive line, any night where they only take 1 sack is a successful night for that offensive line in front of Daniel Jones.
So I came away from that game, these are my 2 Titans-related thoughts, thinking neither of them are good, but even bad teams win football games, which is why if you're looking for any reason for optimism on Monday night, Those are both bad football teams. Miami is not a good football team right now.
That was the pre-fired bowl last night. Arguably the two most pre-fired coaches in America.
Ooh, Dayball? You think? You think Dayball gets fired before Daniel Jones? I feel like Daniel Jones is going to get fired before Brian Dayball does.
You think Brian Dayball gets an opportunity with another quarterback? It depends how badly things spin out for the Giants. If they go 4-13 this year, Brian Dayball ain't coming back.
I mean, I don't know that. When the owner's messaging or when the club's messaging around the offseason was buyer's remorse on the quarterback, then I'm going to assume the quarterback's head is more on the chopping block than the coach's.
I find that any time we talk about the head coach as though he has benefit of the doubt, like we did with Vrabel last year, those coaches still are not immune to things truly spiraling.
No, sure. And Brian Daboll also coach of the year at a certain point in his career, just as Mike Vrabel was. So there should not be much benefit of the doubt given. But I think Daniel Jones is in a particular case because, I mean, Tannehill, there was no getting out from under the Tannehill contract. And New York went out and paid because of John Robinson's situation with Julio Jones and the money that they moved around. It was all kinds of difficult situations that led to them having one of the most expensive quarterback cap hits in football. But beyond that, like Brian Daboll, he makes Daniel Jones look better. Like that offense made Daniel Jones look better when it even had remote resemblances of protection. Like when Andrew Thomas is out there, Micah Parsons got him a couple of times, but Andrew Thomas a good left tackle. When Andrew Thomas is healthy, I'm like okay with the Daniel Jones experience because they can actually run the offense that Brian Daboll is trying to run. Now, I don't know if New York is going to have that kind of nuance when it comes to making a decision on one or the other at the end of the year. But
they could not run the ball to save their lives.
No, and Dallas is the worst run defense in football through the first 3 weeks, but in week 4, I guess Mike Zimmer's scheme finally kicked in, or the messaging finally got home, or they just decided they were going to actually play run defense.
Dallas averaged 1.1 yards per carry on 24 attempts.
Somebody just said in the F&M Bank chat on YouTube, Mike Vrabel, future New York Giants head coach. I saw Bill Belichick, future Jacksonville Jaguars head coach, which would be compelling, but also weird. But I don't know that anybody in Cleveland's getting a job after the season that Deshaun Watson is helping put together. Either way, 2 Titans-related thoughts based on last night's bad football game. Bad football teams can still win football games, which is why I would have any level of optimism about the Titans going to Miami, because the Dolphins are also bad. They're a worse offense, ironically enough, than the Titans are right now. Mike McDonald did as good a job taking away Tyreek Hill as I think I've seen any defensive coordinator do, so there is a game plan there. And also you have L'Jarius Sneed, which is the Stephon Diggs, Tyreek Hill killer, right? So there should be some level of advantage here, even if it feels like, just based on the 2 franchises who they're supposed to be this season, the Dolphins are anything but unbeatable at this point. In fact, they are infinitely beatable. The second part is I wish the Giants wouldn't have drafted Malik Neighbors because I want him. I wanted him over the tackles. I wanted him over either of the tackles. I kind of think I still would have gone Rome Odunze over J.C. Latham or Joe Alt, either way. Tell me if you think I'm full of something on this.
You're full of something.
Well, let me get there.
Okay, now
You're
say
full
it.
of something.
That's fair. We went back and forth on tackle or wide receiver all draft process, right? And they drafted a tackle, and he's playing well. Like, he's not the problem with their offensive line right now. J.C. Latham has been good enough, certainly good for a rookie through 3 weeks. If he's only got 1 game of bad tape, and there will be others, but I trust him. I trust him to do his job. Tell me if there's not still something, though, to the idea of taking the wide receiver over the tackle, because 1 tackle cannot fix 4 other offensive linemen. But 1 wide receiver, 1 playmaker can make all the difference in the world for a quarterback.
Right. Well, they thought they got that playmakers.
Oh, and Ridley?
In the offseason. And Ridley and Tyler Boyd.
Yeah, I mean, he's not Malik Neighbors.
You were checking boxes, right? You were playmaker.
There were boxes checked.
Downfield threat, security blanket, slot receiver, chain mover, Tyler Boyd.
It wouldn't have mattered because the Giants had the pick before them anyway.
Yeah, it wouldn't have mattered.
It didn't matter. It just made me, but I felt that way about Odunze too. Like, I would have gone any of the 3, whether it was Marvin Harrison, Neighbors, or Odunze over either of the tackles at that point, just because, I mean, he's the first player in NFL history with 25 catches, 3 touchdowns in his first 4 games. He's got 386 yards, 35 catches, and 3 touchdowns through 4 games. He's great.
He's been great. Yeah,
He's been great.
He and Marvin Harrison both.
And so, like, Daniel Jones, I don't know how much Daniel Jones is more experienced than Will Levis is. I don't know if he's better than Will Levis is, but I just can't help but think that a reliable playmaker like that, and Calvin Ridley is a playmaker, but he's not yet reliable, right? Free agency happens, you pay Calvin Ridley like it's probably done and dusted. And I know for a fact, talking to people that were in the draft room that night, they were taking either one of the tackles that fell to them. So it's just something that's sticking in the back of my head more than it is with anybody in the organization, because they're completely fine with their J.C. Latham pick, and they should be. But, Traylon Burks is still out there. I don't know how reliable Calvin Ridley is or is not just yet. And I know that the most reliable one that they have is DeAndre Hopkins, and he missed yesterday with rest. We'll see if he's out there today. Titans will practice today and tomorrow, given that it's a Monday night game, as opposed to the regular schedule. But I kept having that thought in the back of my head, watching him until, of course, the concussion, and then you hate to see that for any player as a part of it. 615-737-1045, the number. We'll take your phone calls. We'll also talk about the Vols. Have they reached national title expectation? I'm Buck Rising. It's 1045 The Zone. Martin Lawnscapes does such great work. They have for over a decade here in Middle Tennessee, and they can do the same for you. If you're getting ready to have your yard prepared from fall to get it prepared so it's excellent looking in spring, Martin Lawnscapes is your place to go for aerating, for overseeding, because you want to make sure that you do the right things ahead of time to make sure your grass looks the way that you want it to. And it's not just that. I just got some landscaping done from Martin Lawnscapes, and it looks totally different. It has revamped my property in ways that I couldn't imagine, and they can do hardscapes as well. No matter what your needs are to maximize your space, Martin Lawnscapes is your spot. Go to martinlawnscapes.co today for fair and upfront pricing and a free estimate with multiple options provided for you to be able to maximize that space. Again, that's martinlawnscapes.co. And you asked me if this was a good song. Shame on you, Jackson.
I did not know the name. I have heard the song before. It is a banger.
V-Love, associate producer of the Buck Rising Show, Vincent Love, did text me this morning and request some rainy day music, and Hillary Duff was his request. So apparently we're a jukebox. If you have my phone number, don't text me. But
I'll put his phone number in the chat so everybody can text
you're going to
him.
dox me like that Titans fan did Levis on the internet. Did you see they found the person who leaked his number on Twitter?
No, they tracked him down?
They tracked him down, just like they can find the Florida State fan that promised that he would eat dog poop.
Well, that guy's MIA.
Well, no, they found him. He just keeps ducking people, right? They found him on Snapchat. He deleted his Instagram. Turns out when you're as online as all of us are, or most of us are at this point in our lives, you can be found on the internet one way or another.
So they tracked him down.
They tracked him down. The account was disabled, and apparently that person has been a bit of a malcontent on Twitter for quite some time. So not sure how he got the number.
Shocking.
Yeah, tough scene. I think that the account was Sad Titans Fan 22 or something like that. Either way.
So, Lucas, how's life without a Twitter?
The Twitter handle, I'm seeing it now.
He played that off well, like it wasn't him. That wasn't his brother.
Right. The Twitter handle of the person is @22ismygoat.
Oh, okay. At 22 is my goat. That's funny, but isn't it like the name Sad Titans Fan or something like that?
Yeah.
Depressed Titans Fan. Either way, 615-737-1045 is how you jump in. We're going to get into some Vol stuff here in just a second. They are off this week, but still obviously worth talking about because national title expectations, ? We're starting to get some. Chuck is up first this morning.
Hey, Buck. There's going to be a Rome and Doomsday. There's going to be a Malik Neighbors every year in the draft. We had to have Latham in the draft. We had 3 quality wide receivers. Getting the 4th one, maybe if we were really good, that would be a smart move. But, man, I'm going to give you a little Friday fire. Just this weekend, go get you a good cleanse. Get this all out of your system. You'll come back Monday all prepped and ready to go for the Titans to win 30-24 Monday night.
Okay. I appreciate you, Chuck. I did go to the sauna to try and sweat out the suck the other day. It's, I did feel better. I felt better. It was a bit of a cleanse.
It's so weird how personally you seem to be taking the Titans being 0-3. It's so strange to me as someone
football personally,
who's like allergic to being referred to as a Titans fan. It's very, very strange to me.
It shouldn't be. Does it not piss you off watching them flounder about? And even New York Giants fans have something fun to watch because Malik Neighbors is out there running around and catching touchdown passes?
Not enjoyable. But I also was born here and grew up a Titans fan. So from the guy that has gone so out of his way to make sure people know you don't care what's happening on the field, it has just been strange behavior. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, and now it's affecting me. That's how bad it's gotten. It's now affecting me personally in my day-to-day. It pisses me off. So let's not sit there any longer, right? We're going to talk about things that are possible because if they go 0-4, then, Tuesday's radio show. What are we even going to do on Tuesday? Monday's radio show is obviously going to be from Miami. Sunday night's primetime is going to be from Miami, too. I'm flying down there Sunday.
Big game for Tennessee going into Arkansas if the Titans lose Monday.
Well, I won't be here. I wasn't ready for the Week 5 bye. I'm taking vacation on the Week 5 bye because bleep them at this point. But with everything that's happening, Vols obviously have high-level expectations. That is something that local fans can get excited about. That's something that college football fans around the country can get excited about because Tennessee being good feels like it's got a little extra juice for everybody, not just here locally or in East Tennessee. Or do people in Memphis care about UT? Or is it just Memphis? No? Really?
There's a rivalry there.
Okay. So, Lucas sent me this clip yesterday. I could feel him smiling through the text of the Twitter group because it's Colin Cowherd picking the Vols to win the national championship.
Those 2 teams aren't the best teams in the SEC. I'm going to call it right now. Tennessee is going to win the national championship.
Wow.
I came on this show before the Oklahoma game, and I said Oklahoma they're not going to score. Tennessee's got the best defense in college football. Excellent coach. Explosive offensively. I think Tennessee's the best team I've seen. Tell me I'm wrong.
Now, I'm assuming that the Colin Cowherd show did not have Rocky Top playing in the background.
And then Jackson also conveniently left out Joel Klatt's response where he said, you're wrong.
I also didn't see the Joe Klatt piece of that clip.
Yeah.
So Joe Klatt is refuting this, huh?
No, well, Joel Klatt has said Tennessee is a title contender, and Joel Klatt has on his podcast talked about how impressive the defense has been and the ceiling of Nico and how this is a team that should be talked about as a contender in the playoff. But he was telling Colin that he is wrong in saying that Tennessee is the most impressive team of the first 4 weeks of the season, that Tennessee is as much a title contender as Texas and Georgia. And, like Josh Pate said the other day, Colin Cowherd probably is not totally right about that until proven otherwise. Tennessee has not reached the talent profile of a Texas or a Georgia, but still to have the, hot take radio hosts of the country starting to predict Tennessee as a national championship contender, that is something after the first 4 weeks of the season.
It's the first time in our lifetime.
It is, yeah. It's the first time. I was alive in 1998. I was a toddler, but I was alive.
You were not, Jackson?
I was not.
Okay.
The last time Tennessee was legitimately a national championship contender, because in 2016, they were a preseason top 10 team, started 5-0, the Hail Mary. But as we saw, that was a house of cards. And that all collapsed in on itself with the culture of Butch Jones in Knoxville. So the last time it was legitimate was 2001, when Tennessee was upset by Nick Saban and LSU in the SEC championship game. Had Tennessee won that game, they would have been playing Miami in the national title game. So it's been over 20 years since you can legitimately say that, and it feels like you can legitimately say that.
It feels like what?
Expectation, though?
It feels like what?
Feels like 98.
There it is. Come on, it's such a layup joke.
Well, 98, that was the well, actually, that's not true. That wasn't the expectation because you had lost Peyton Manning. That was actually a bit of a surprise run. But there's a difference there between saying Tennessee is a title contender and that the expectation is now to win a national championship in 2024. I'm not there yet, personally, to say that that's the baseline expectation, that the season is a disappointment if you don't win the national championship. But I am willing to cross that line and say they've looked like national title contenders through the first 4 weeks. But you can say that anything less than 10-2 at this point after beating Oklahoma would be a massive, massive disappointment. So we're there now, where that is officially the floor in terms of baseline expectation.
10-2.
10-2.
Yeah, because the Oklahoma win is a big step in that direction, right? But it's not like beating Oklahoma does not make Tennessee a national title contender. From my standpoint, right? Like, that's a game. We talked about it all week long. I felt like I was pretty consistent on that. You're a touchdown favorite. You should win the game. You're the better team. That you did so and met expectation is good. That's a step in the right direction. That's progress if you're a Vols fan, right? Because a lot of times you've been underwhelmed relative to expectation, especially on the road in the Josh Heupel tenure. Florida week is going to be telling, because this Florida week or this Florida game, is this Florida team worse than last year's Florida team? Because I feel like last year's Florida team was worse.
No, this team is worse.
Significantly worse.
Oh, without a doubt. The Florida game will not be telling. The Florida game should be a blowout at Neyland Stadium. I mean, there's no excuse for it not to be.
Oh, that's right. It's at Neyland. I got
the Florida game,
they lost at Florida last year.
Yeah, the Florida. There should be nothing. If there's anything telling about the Florida game, then it's a bad thing for Tennessee this year. If Tennessee wins by multiple scores, there's nothing telling about the Florida game. They just did what they were supposed to do against a program that is
I
really
hear that
right
about
now.
Florida. I've heard that about Florida every year that I've been here, and every year Florida becomes a problem. So, that honestly is a bigger deal to me. I know that's a bit ridiculous because Oklahoma is clearly the better team. Playing at Norman is the more hostile environment than hosting a bad Florida team at home. But I do think that there's something about, just getting past preconceived notions about what the Vols are as a program en route to national championship expectations. That people are now outside of the state of Tennessee or maybe outside of the Southeast really like what Pate would call casuals, right? Anybody looking at Colin Cowherd on a regular basis for his college football expertise? But they're talking about it because Tennessee is relevant in the national landscape. They are. starting to approach this. They've beaten a name brand program in Oklahoma. You have Josh Heupel as the focal point for basically the entire week of college football coverage because he's going back to the place that he won a national title at, and they won convincingly enough. They covered. They beat the team that they were supposed to beat. Now Alabama and Georgia down the line. I know that they have a couple more games before they have either of those two teams. And, of course, the Georgia-Alabama game is going to be very telling, I think, this weekend. Pate's point about the DeBoer offense against a Kirby Smart, Dan Lanning-esque defense, I haven't heard anybody talking about that game that way, right? Because Dan Lanning at Oregon, Kalen DeBoer at Washington, going back and forth, finding different ways to dismantle Dan Lanning's defense. Dan Lanning, obviously a product of the Georgia football program and Kirby Smart's defense. I'm so fascinated to see how that game plays out Saturday night, not only because Tennessee doesn't have a game and there's nothing else for us to watch of real note here locally, but because the tactics in that are a lot more intriguing than I thought they might be.
In Georgia, Alabama?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we'll talk a little bit about that. The SEC stat of the day coming up. Some interesting numbers on Georgia's downfield passing game or lack thereof as they go into Tuscaloosa. But yeah, those are the two marquee games left on the schedule. I don't want to say that Tennessee's season just turned into a 2-game schedule, but it kind of did. And I know we said that in 2022. I know it felt like after Tennessee beat Alabama that the rest of the season was a 1-game schedule. And it was Georgia. And even if you lost to Georgia, you could still go 11-1 and be in the 14 playoff. And they didn't. They lost to South Carolina. But the reality is the season has turned into a 2-game schedule, something we can say and not Josh Heupel in Tennessee. Obviously, they have to show up. They have to take care of business. But I simply say that because if you lose to anybody other than Georgia or Alabama, then it is a catastrophic failure.
Sure.
Because you'd be talking about a loss to Arkansas or Florida or Kentucky, or it would be catastrophic. So, yes, Tennessee season should be a 2-game schedule the rest of the way against Georgia and against Alabama. And I think most Tennessee fans would be more than happy with the split. With the split and an 11-1 season that is assuredly going to get you into the playoff and probably in the SEC championship game.
So, I guess Let's talk about it from a local standpoint, because just because one person said it, it's almost like doing the Titans fan offseason thing, right? One person said the Titans might be good this year. Let's talk about it. Colin Cowherd said the Vols might be good here. Let's talk about it. For us, do you have national title expectations for this football team that is riding a streak of 19 straight quarters without allowing an offensive touchdown? Before the Sooners got into what they score, midway through the fourth?
Mm-hmm. And it felt like it took a lot.
It took a lot, right? It took a quarterback change for them to get anything offensively.
And even then, I mean, they really had to hammer away to get into the end zone on a flip. The dude had to flip into the end zone and barely get in.
And this is coming off a game where Tennessee only scored 6 points in the second half. We talked about the nature of the game plan. Josh Heupel got a little bit of criticism from Tennessee fans about, you were too conservative in this or this, that, and the other, when you understood why he was managing that game conservatively. Sometimes conservatism in game planning is not the worst thing in the world if it leads to you winning the football game, as it did for Tennessee last Saturday night. So you have national championship expectations for them?
No, because that, I think, insinuates anything below that bar would be a disappointment. I think it would be silly to sit here and say, if Tennessee does not win the national championship, the season was a disappointment. I think that'd be silly.
And that's the proper way to have this version of the conversation. Is the season a disappointment if Tennessee doesn't win the whole thing?
Yeah, and it's fine to adjust expectations as you move along in a season.
A lot of people are having to do it with the Titans right now.
But what I will say is if Tennessee does not reach the 12-team playoff, it will be a disappointment. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
And I said that before the season.
Sure.
Right?
That in a 12-team playoff, you damn sure better make
you need to be in the playoff, especially after what you've established in the first 4 weeks.
Okay, so maybe let's readjust, because I'm with you. I don't have national championship expectations for this version of the Vols. I think next year is and I know James Pierce is going to go to the draft, and the defense will look a little different, but still, like, they've got now the talent and the basically the pipeline to continue to sustain this, we think. They're not recruiting yet at Alabama and Georgia's level, but they're pushing. They're pushing, and they're flipping kids from both programs to bolster their own talent pool. So they're doing the correct things that they need to do to make this sustainable at the highest level. So let's talk about it within the context of winning the SEC, because that would be a huge deal. When's the last time Tennessee won the SEC?
98.
Okay, huge deal.
Last time Tennessee was in the SEC championship game was 2007.
Even still, huge deal. Is winning the SEC viable before you've seen Alabama on your schedule, before you've gone to Georgia, before you've seen either of those two teams play one another? Is winning the SEC viable for expectations? Because Texas is also in there too. Texas is currently the number one team in the country. Texas has had the easiest path so far to becoming the number one team in the country. They haven't faced really,
They had to win in the big house.
Yeah, and USC struggled in ways that Texas obviously did not. But, your opinion on Michigan has changed since the USC game, right? Because
Sure.
I think a lot of people looked at Michigan and said, oh, they're dead in the water. And Texas just went in there and beat them because they're the better football team.
A lot of people regained a lot of respect for Michigan for sticking with what they do and just hammering away at USC over the weekend. Orji, their quarterback, had 32 pass yards on the day, and they beat USC at home.
Yeah.
So I think they got back a lot of equity with that, and that's a credit to Sharon Moore, because we were all sitting over here saying, hey, bud, you just going to keep doing what brought you success last year without the pieces that brought you success last year, and he did, and they won a marquee Big Ten matchup against USC over the weekend. So credit to them, and it did give that Texas win in the big house, which they controlled, by the way, and it could have been a lot worse than it was, like the Tennessee-Oklahoma game. It probably gave that win a little more juice.
I don't think the conversation, though, like if you're going to talk about them as being capable of winning the SEC, like if that's a reasonable expectation, then I don't think it's that much further of a reach to say national title.
Yeah, well, we're not talking about capability here. We understand that the capability is there. At least it looks like it's there from the first 4 weeks. If the capability is there to win the SEC, then you are capable of winning the national championship.
But I'm not saying that I think they're capable of winning the SEC. I'm posing the question to you. I don't think they are, given the rest of the SEC right now. Now, will the Alabama-Georgia game be telling this weekend? Will Texas be telling the better competition that they face in conference play? Yes, all of those things. Mississippi State is not going to be the team that pushes Texas this weekend. I don't think that they're Texas or Alabama or Georgia yet. So I don't have winning the SEC expectations yet. I don't think right now, based on what I've seen from them, it's a small sample size against better competition. So maybe we get proven, or maybe I get proven wrong the more that they play and the further into league play that they get. But no, I don't have winning the SEC expectations for Tennessee, because if I was going to go that far, I would go national championship.
I believe they are a team that is capable of doing that, of winning the SEC, which in turn would make them a team that is capable of winning the national championship. But again, it's not my expectation at the moment. My expectation is simply to be in the 12-team playoff, to win a game or two in the 12-team playoff, because in 2022, Tennessee was able to keep up and beat Alabama. How? Because they were able to outscore almost anybody in the country, right? The things that they did not have in 2022, they have more of in 2024. The offense was the equalizer. It was the balancer for Tennessee 2 years ago. But there just wasn't enough, and we've had this conversation about the defense and the depth and what they had or did not have in the defensive backfield. They have a lot of the pieces in 2024 that just had them expire in 2022, to where the offense was not enough of an equalizer. So that, to me, elevates them in a way that puts them in that conversation of SEC and national championship contender.
Well, do you want to get into the SEC stat of the day?
Sure.
That's next.
Biggest SEC matchup of 2024 happening Saturday in Tuscaloosa. The crowd is going to be electric. Donald Trump will be on hand. I don't know why, but
What do you mean?
it's going to be a great crowd.
That is such a great spot for him.
Yeah, I guess so.
That makes a lot of sense.
Why? Is something coming up? Carson
you
Beck.
think Kamala would do,
The
do
SEC
real well at the Alabama-Georgia game, do you?
The SEC stat of the day, Georgia quarterback Carson Beck has completed just 54.9% of his passes beyond the line of scrimmage. That ranks 94th in the country. The downfield passing game has not quite been there for Georgia. Their lead receiver is Dominic Lovett, the Missouri transfer from a couple years ago. He has 12 catches for 155 yards and 1 touchdown through 4 games. That ranks 31st amongst SEC receivers. Just SEC receivers. So can Georgia lean on their downfield passing game against Alabama on offense? Will they need to? Can they just lean on Alabama in the trenches, which is how they won against Kentucky? And Carson Beck, bailed them out of certain situations late in that game with some critical third down conversions. But there doesn't seem to be a Brock Bowers emerging at the moment. Georgia is down one downfield threat when they kicked Ra Thomas off the team after another arrest in the offseason, the Mississippi State transfer wide receiver. So will there be a Dylan Bell stepping up? Can Dominic Lovett, who is a good football player, right? He's an established receiver in this league, but the downfield passing game just hasn't been there consistently enough for Georgia, while it's definitely in Alabama's wheelhouse. In fact, it's almost all of what they do in the
don't have
passing
an
game.
intermediate passing game.
No,
he's so boomer bust.
Very
Burrow.
boomer bust. He's an electric runner of the football, and he's a great deep ball thrower. And typically when you have that, the boomer bust type, you see a lot of turnovers, but he didn't have a single interception this year. Jalen Milroe is so good at only throwing the deep ball and not throwing interceptions out of it. You got to give him that. Ryan Williams, the freshman receiver for Alabama, has been electric. He has 285 yards on the season. He's averaging 28.5 yards per catch. He's got 4 touchdowns. Georgia has not had a true road trip to Tuscaloosa since 2007, the year Ryan Williams was born.
Whoa.
The year Alabama's
That's
lead
SEC
receiver was
stat of the
born.
day. Is that a stat of the day or a fact of the day?
Fact of the day,
Fact
stat of the
of the
day. Now, Georgia went there in 2020. Doesn't count. COVID year. So true road trip, it has not been since they have not had one since 2007. So obviously a lot of eyeballs are on this game in Tuscaloosa. And the pressure is more on Georgia than it is Alabama. With the Nick Saban retirement, Kirby Smart trying to take his throne stuff aside, we talked about what Georgia has coming down the stretch the rest of this season. It's a much more difficult path than what Alabama has. They have to go to Texas. They have to go to Ole Miss. They have to host Tennessee. Alabama does not have that type of slate coming up. So more pressure on the road team here, the favored team in this game in the Georgia Bulldogs. Very intrigued at how Georgia looks throwing the ball downfield, if they even need to resort to that to win this game, which they did not need at Kentucky.
Yeah, I feel like they're going to need it. I feel like they're going to need it for the reasons that Pate pointed out with us on, what was that, Wednesday or Tuesday, whenever Pate was in here, talking about Kalen DeBoer against Kirby Smart's defense, because Kalen DeBoer has played Kirby Smart's defense before, except it's not Kirby Smart's defense, it was Dan Lanning. So he has experience against this particular kind of system. The line is a short one for those of you who are gambling. It depends on where you get it. ESPN Bet right now still has Georgia -2.5. I saw FanDuel this morning have Georgia -1.5. The over-under set at 50.5. I bet Alabama. I think Alabama's going to win this game.
Really?
I really do. Now, watch Georgia just completely suffocate all life out of the Alabama offense and me look like a fool come Monday morning when we're talking about some of this stuff and getting ready for the Titans-Dolphins game. But I think the advantage, not just because the pressure is more on Georgia, I think Alabama has the advantage here based on what we've seen from Georgia so far. Now, just because we haven't seen it yet this season doesn't mean that they're not capable, right? Because, of course, when you recruit at the level that Georgia does, they have players that are capable of doing this. Carson Beck is a high-level player, even if they have not had cause or ability to showcase it just yet, specific to the downfield passing game. That Kentucky game was such a suffering, just for both teams trying to generate any kind of offense. It was terrible.
Well, I will say Georgia has done this before, right? Georgia has kind of kicked the can a little bit early in the season. They've struggled against a Kentucky early on, and then the questions start to pop up about Georgia, and in particular about their offense. Is Stetson Bennett good enough to power Georgia? And then they turn it on, and then Georgia looks like Georgia.
Yeah, but the Stetson thing wasn't because of Stetson Bennett. The Stetson Bennett thing was because he is an excellent distributor to excellent playmakers. Yeah. And what you've said at the start of your analysis was, we're still waiting for the emergence of an excellent playmaker on the Georgia offense.
Yep. Yeah, there is not a Brock Bowers on this team. That much we definitively know. But who is going to step up in that regard? Trevor Etienne is a great playmaker out of the backfield. He was suspended the first game of the season. Dominic Lovett, Arian Smith, Dylan Bell, London Humphreys, local guy, the Vanderbilt transfer. There is talent in this Georgia lineup out wide, but it just hasn't really been a major downfield threat outside of, playing Tennessee Tech so far this year. And it is early. It's early in the season, but against a hostile crowd in Tuscaloosa and a very talented Alabama defense, I'm very intrigued to see what that looks like. And if Georgia does indeed just turn it on and dominate down the stretch like they have each and every year under Kirby Smart in recent seasons. But obviously, this is the marquee matchup of the weekend. Somebody in the chat is saying that London Humphreys is out. I have not seen that, so I will effort that and see. Oh, so Georgia is expected to be without London Humphreys against Alabama. I did not see that. So that's a big omission there.
Oh, I am so in on Bama and the under.
Who reportedly has mono, London Humphreys.
Which NFL quarterback had mono? Was it Darnold?
Darnold, yeah, because he had that graphic came across with he's power pointing at the camera. It's like out with mononucleosis.
Like he's threatening to give it to me.
So thank you, Ricky, on the FNN Bank chat for pointing that out. London Humphreys will be out for this game.
Not with mono.
Elsewhere in the SEC, Ole Miss gets their first big test against Kentucky. Huge game for Ole Miss's college football playoff hopes. They are at home. And that Kentucky defense against the Lane Kiffin offense that has not really been tested yet this year, but is putting up huge numbers. That's a big game. And Oklahoma rolls out Michael Hawkins, who came in at quarterback. He replaced Jackson Arnold against Tennessee. And he's going to start against Auburn. The over-under for this game, I've seen it at 45.5. I don't know how Auburn's going to move the football against this Oklahoma defense. That Auburn offense has been a struggle. All they've done is turn the ball over, and this is by far the best defense they've seen.
It really is a question of whose offense is going to struggle most in this game. I think Auburn is, what, +2?
+2.5. Oklahoma 2.5-point favorites at Jordan-Hare Stadium.
It's at Auburn.
Yeah, it's in Auburn. So
I would probably pick Auburn in that spot.
That Oklahoma offense has been a struggle, too. It's probably going to be a low-scoring game. Michael Hawkins in the run game is, this guy's not a scrub backup. Like, he was a 4-star prospect coming out. We are not talking enough about how quickly the Jackson Arnold era seems to have ended at Oklahoma. Arnold was viewed by some recruiting services as a better prospect than Nico coming out. They were in the same recruiting class. Like, he was a blue-chip, bona fide 5-star. And Oklahoma, people act like Oklahoma ushered out Dylan Gabriel because they were so eager to start the Jackson Arnold era. I think Dylan Gabriel is transferring to Oregon no matter what. He's talked about wanting to be closer to home. But there's no question. They hinged their offensive hopes on Jackson Arnold this year, and that has sputtered and flamed out very, very quickly after his dreadful performance against Tennessee. So where the former 5-star future lies will be interesting. But Michael Hawkins gets the start against Auburn. And then you have Arkansas and Texas A&M playing in Dallas. Always the weirdest neutral site game. That one could very well just be a home and home. But those are the SEC fixtures of note this weekend.
Well, and speaking of fixtures of note, we'll talk about the college football playoff landscape and games with implications, some that involve the SEC, some that do not, coming up next. The Tennessee Men's Clinic specializes in men's sexual health issues. It's all they do. This makes them the experts in the field, and they have access to multiple protocols and options to treat your ED based on your specific needs and what's going on in your body. Don't trust your health to an online pharmacy, and don't feel like you're out of options. We want you to understand all your options for treating ED. The Tennessee Men's Clinic protocols are patient-centered and customized to your needs. They have treatments for everything from low testosterone, ED, treatments that increase size and stamina, and everything else in between. The bottom line is no one has more expertise and experience in successfully treating men's sexual health issues than the Tennessee Men's Clinic, and they are passionate about what they do. So schedule an appointment online today. TennesseeMen'sClinic.com is the website for their Franklin or Midtown location, or call them 615-208-9090. That's 615-208-9090.
11:03. Good morning. I'm Lucas Panzica from the 104.5 The Zone studios. The Dallas Cowboys outlasted the New York Giants on Thursday Night Football with a 20-15 final. Cowboys star edge rusher Micah Parsons was carted off late in the game with what appeared to be a lower left leg injury. Meanwhile, Giants rookie wide receiver Malik Neighbors left injured with a concussion. The Titans will not play until Monday night in Miami. Cornerback Chido Awuzie did not practice Thursday with a groin injury. Brian Callahan has said he will likely be placed on injured reserve. Jeffrey Simmons missed practice with an elbow. DeAndre Hopkins and L'Jarius Sneed sat out due to rest. Tom Pelissero of NFL Network reported this morning that the Titans are signing veteran defensive lineman McTelvin Agim to the practice squad. For all your foundation repairs and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Okay, second hour is upon us. Coach Dave McGinnis is going to be here. Jarvis Brownlee Jr., the rookie corner who is going to start for you on Monday Night Football, is going to be here. We have some college football stuff to get to in the meantime. 615-737-1045, the number. Like I said earlier, of course, you know that Tennessee has a bye, so the Vols will take some time to rest, get their offensive line situation right before returning to SEC play on the road at Arkansas next weekend. We are going to take a look. We've talked obviously a lot about the SEC. We just did the SEC stat of the day, but there are other games with college football implications. The thing that looms the largest is, of course, Georgia and Alabama. It's the first top 5 matchup of this 12-team college football playoff era, and what we're going to get to later in the noon hour is how much of the meaning of this game is lost, if any. You guys will tell us how much meaning is lost, if any, in terms of it used to be an elimination game. And now it obviously is no longer that. With a 12-team format, you have more opportunities to, drop a game here or there and still get in the final 12. So you've got a handful of critical games across the board. Are we looking at Notre Dame as being a team viable to make the 12-team playoff still?
Oh, of course, yeah. Notre Dame goes 11-1 despite the loss to Northern Illinois. They're in because you're talking about, a win over USC and some of the other teams on their schedule. But I will say, for the college football playoff expansion haters that believe it takes away value, it takes away importance of the regular season, it does that to an extent. It does put a safety net under the likes of Georgia and Alabama, more or less. But it also gives us true elimination games in week 5, right? And I know we kind of had that before, but it's also different because Louisville wasn't really meaningfully talking about being able to get into the 4-team playoff before. They very much have the goal of getting into the 12-team playoff. So for Louisville, who visits Notre Dame in a top 16 matchup that kicks off at 2:30 tomorrow, this is very much an elimination game. Because Louisville is a team that could potentially get to the ACC championship. If they were to lose to Notre Dame, they'd probably have to run the table and win the ACC and be one of those automatic qualifiers. Like a 2-loss Louisville, I would be doubtful that they would get into the 12-team playoff. So I consider Louisville at Notre Dame an elimination game.
Yeah. And I like that week 5 has that elimination game quality to it. Even though if you're college football, like you're rooting for Notre Dame, obviously, in this situation because you want the biggest brands, even though you have the expanded field. You also have a couple of different games. The group of 5 with Memphis losing, that is something to keep an eye on with group of 5. Auto bids, of course, a situation for now Boise State.
Memphis losing.
Did Memphis lose this past week?
No. Memphis is unbeaten. No, they did. They lost to Navy. Oh, good job by you.
Buddy, please
wow.
don't, because I'm shaky with this stuff anyway. When you do that to me,
you are right.
I was shook.
They lost to Navy.
I was like, no, please, I made notes. Please don't tell me I was wrong about
56-44. Wow. So now, theoretically, Memphis could get in if they're still the highest-ranked Group of 5 conference champ, but that's a big blow to their playoff hopes. Yes, great job by you. If you're looking at Group of 5, I got one that's been in the news in UNLV. They host Fresno State.
Okay,
with their new quarterback.
How much more UNLV coverage do I have to do? I can't even say the name of their university correctly.
I hear you, but like it or not, it's one of the biggest stories so far in college football this year. And UNLV is very much a college football playoff contender. Have you seen the latest on this? Circa Sports, a mogul from Circa Sports, which is a big sports betting company in Vegas. They just had 3HL out in Vegas to do the show from there just a couple of weeks ago.
Just because?
They have offered UNLV $100,000 to pay Matthew Sluka. They have offered UNLV the money that Sluka and his camp say they are owed by the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, and UNLV said no.
Wait, but why? Like he's not that good, is he? He's not like a Heisman candidate or anything like that. He's a pretty pedestrian. I mean, he's a quarterback of a top 30 team, so that's not like nothing to turn my nose up at, I guess. But is he so valuable that that any sports book should be willing to cough up their own money? I don't get that.
The why is a very interesting question. But
that's disclosed nowhere?
He clearly, not that I've seen, yes. So Circa Sports CEO Derek Stevens has offered to pay UNLV quarterback Matt Sluka $100,000 in an NIL deal to resolve his dispute with the school. Brett McMurphy reported it. UNLV said nah. UNLV
why?
Officially responded on Wednesday.
That would also be my response if I was UNLV. Why?
UNLV responded on Wednesday, quote, "We won't be doing business with the Sluka family again."
Okay, well, they didn't have to make it that personal, but I guess if the kid did, they can too.
What if Sluka had a little brother?
I don't know. What if?
I mean, we won't be doing business,
At all?
Yeah, just the little brother.
So they've taken themselves out of the, I have no idea, the Sluka family lineage at this point, so perhaps they've banged themselves in a big spot, maybe his kid at some point.
Yeah, he's a 4-star, really wants to go to UNLV as a group of 5, playoff contender.
You're really playing this. You're playing this out like you would an NCAA football game, is what it sounds like to me. You've simulated a couple of seasons to get ahead of yourself here.
That's how I live my life.
Speaking of elimination games, number 20 Oklahoma State is at Kansas State at 11 a.m. That's an elimination game for the 12-team college football playoff. And Colorado is at UCF. UCF, one of the more underrated teams so far this season. They are undefeated to this point, beat TCU 35-34 last weekend, and they host Colorado, who just escaped on a Hail Mary to send it to overtime against Baylor and winning in overtime. I don't know. The Colorado discussion has been interesting. Doesn't it feel like it's kind of dropped off this year?
What is the Colorado discussion beyond their living and dying by Shador and Travis Hunter? And without that, and without Dion probably next year when both of those guys are gone, I don't know what Colorado football is other than, a fun thing occasionally with a freak athlete and a quarterback that's a bit petulant.
Yeah. I mean, it does
I summarize the Colorado experience enough?
It feels like that's where we're at. Doesn't it feel like it's taken a bit of a dip in shininess and everybody, desperately wanting to see what Colorado's going to do?
Yeah, well, it's not new, right? It's not new anymore. Like, Dion's been there. Like, we know what to expect. There is no uncertainty in, Colorado, who did they upset last year at the start of the season that they shouldn't have beat?
Oh, they beat TCU at the start.
TCU, right? And TCU was just coming on, and I know that TCU got run and they lost a bunch of people after the national championship appearance. So it wasn't maybe the TCU that was competing for the national championship, but it was still a big upset. It put Colorado more on the radar because, here Deion Sanders is doing things that nobody expected Deion Sanders to be able to do. And now I have an expectation of what Deion Sanders is going to be able to do every week. Like, I know what the Colorado experience is. It's not new. It's not fresh. It is still exciting because Travis Hunter is a freak. But beyond that, I don't know what else you do with him. Tyler Dial brings up an interesting point about things that could affect, not necessarily this year, the college football playoff. You see, you're obviously familiar with Dave Portnoy, the founder of Barstool Sports.
Yeah.
He said that he would be willing to pay up to $3 million for Michigan to get a quarterback. He alone would be willing to pay up to $3 million to get Michigan a quarterback.
I did see that. That's where we're at. And then other college football news, Liberty and App State were supposed to play at App State tomorrow. That game's been canceled due to Hurricane Helene.
Just outright canceled?
And will not be rescheduled.
Okay.
Yeah. And, for a Liberty team that could be a group of 5 champion and would have been in if there was a 12-team playoff last year, Liberty would have been in it. That's a big blow for a, potential strength of schedule addition.
Who's the best group of 5 team?
Right now?
Right now. Who's the best group of 5 team? Because that to me, we're not going to talk a bunch of group of 5 football around here for obvious reasons. But like that to me is one of the more compelling parts of the 12-team playoff is who actually establishes themselves and can they do anything if they make the 12 when they make the 12-team playoff is one of the group of 5 auto bids.
I think UNLV. I think it's UNLV.
Without the quarterback.
Yeah. Truly, UNLV is a contender to get to the college football playoff this year. That's part of why that story was so massive. The reason was more so because of, how much more we might see that. It kind of set a bit of a precedent, so to speak. But I would say UNLV. Yeah.
Coach Dave McGinnis of Titans Radio. He's next. Vibes are high when Coach Mack is on the show. His visit's presented by Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer. No Titans football this weekend. Monday Night Football is, of course, on deck. A trip to Miami to face the Dolphins, who are dealing with struggles of their own. Of course, Titans trying to get right in Week 4 to avoid being one of the teams that continues to be winless after 3 weeks, or I guess into 4 weeks. We have 3 winless team, of which Tennessee is currently 1. Mac, how we living on this Friday?
Doing good. Getting ready to go to practice, a little bit wet, so I'm sure that they will be inside, but that's what I'm getting ready to do.
And it's our understanding, Mac, that practice is going to be padded today, and a lot of the work that the offensive line gets in particular is going to determine who gets the bulk of the snaps, if not the entirety of the snaps, against the Dolphins at right tackle.
Yeah, well, we'll see. I mean, we'll see what, but yeah, and the head coach said last week, I mean, they're going to continue to use as many padded practices as they are allowed under this new CBA that's been in place for a while, and so then they absolutely need it, and they're going to use it.
So with Petit Frere specifically, Mac, we haven't talked to him. He said he was getting treatment yesterday, and I know he's going to speak to media later today. But when talking to Bill Callahan about it, they feel the issues are totally correctable at this point. They're just trying to get it put back together. I'm looking at the offensive line group as a whole and saying, I appreciate their willingness to make a change because, of course, what's going on right now hasn't worked. So at least consideration to Duncan or whomever else they might give a shot at right tackle. It sounds like it's between those two right now. But with Petit Frere and the offensive line group as a whole, the continuity of it is the thing that I'm most curious about because from my understanding, and it's not like I'm any kind of offensive line expertise, the only way that they can improve as a unit is just by playing more football together.
Yeah, but that also it has to have individual improvement too, and so that's extremely important. I mean, and what they're doing, and of course I trust Bill Callahan implicitly, but I've done this long enough to know that even for a unit to function together, each individual component has to be playing up to a certain level. Now, look, offensive linemen, are going to get beat every now and then, just like corners are going to get beat. I mean, it's just life in the National Football League. You're going to compete. But if you compete on a consistent basis, you would like to be able to, at least percentage-wise, win more than you come out on the other end of it. And so that's what they're looking at with Petit Frere. When you watch some of the things, I mean, getting beat on the inside moves, and then all of a sudden now, being unsure whether it's an inside or an outside move, then being off balance. All of those things, come with time on task as far as playing. And so that's what they'll work on. And it's up to the individual first to be able to finally get your cleats in the ground and say, this isn't going to happen to me again. I see what is happening. I need to fix it. He's got all the help he needs to fix it. He just needs to do it.
Coach, after an 0-3 start, obviously not what anybody envisioned coming into the season inside that building, as a head coach, are you relying more on your leaders, the veterans in the locker room, to kind of keep the messaging the same, to keep things consistent? Like, do you have to adjust anything about the way you communicate with the team as everybody kind of tries to pull towards turning it around?
Yeah, Lucas, you've got to be consistent with everything that you do, and just keep trying to insist that everybody does a little bit more better. I have been on an 0-3 team when I was coaching in my 31 seasons as a coach twice in my coaching career in the National Football League. Once in 1996, when I left the Bears to be a coordinator to take over a Cardinal organization that was really at rock bottom. Started off 0-3, and then continued with a consistent message. Was able to identify the guys on the football team that could carry the message, and then stayed consistent and was able to win with that group 7 games, which was quite an accomplishment for what they had done. And then here in 2009, coming off of a 13-3 team that had gone 10-0 the year before, and then to lose not only, 0-3 is a hole. It's a hole. But that 0-9 team started off 0-6. Now that's a ditch. But we were able to stay consistent, and I remember, coming back from that 59-0 beatdown in New England right before the open date, Jeff Fisher gathered the coaches together. We gave the team completely the week off and reset, and then proceeded to win 8 out of our next 10. So you've got to stay consistent with it, and you've got to be able to continue to press forward, block out all the outside noise, and just be sure that everybody understands that if you will start doing a little bit more properly, that you've got a chance to pull out of it, because I've done it twice.
Titans may have to be preparing to face one of 3 different quarterbacks in Miami on Monday night. Just the skill sets of those players, Tyler Huntley, Skylar Thompson, Tim Boyle, how does that adjust a defensive game plan with Tyler Huntley and what he can do versus a Tim Boyle if he ends up being the starter?
Well, they're different because Snoop Huntley can run. I mean, he can run. He's a really good athlete. He can run. He can move. And plus, he's healthy. Now, Skylar Thompson, got crushed a couple of times, so they're saying it's a rib injury. But the thing that you'll have to do defensively, which I'm sure they're doing right now, you still got to defend the totality of the Miami Dolphins offense, which there's 2 teams that right now are using pre-snap motion more than anybody in the league. We just played one of them in Green Bay. Miami is the other one. So you've got to be able to surround that motion. And the thing that's unique about what Miami does is with the multiple motions, they've also got the fastest skill group as a group in the league right now. So you've got to be able to surround that motion. You cannot have an eye discipline that somebody's off because you're going to be a step behind. You can't chase this multiple motion team. You got to surround it. So that's what they're working on now. The quarterback, I think if Huntley does play, there will be some more quarterback runs designed in there. And so that's, to me, that would be the one thing that you would look at and thinking of the issues that they had last week with the running quarterback on certain plays. They would probably address that if Huntley is the guy.
And just uncharacteristic stuff based on the sample size that we have of this defense, Mac, like the missed tackles in the Green Bay game, egregious. I obviously I know that Denard Wilson is going to emphasize that particular part of it. You have to be sound in your technique every week, but in that game it was exposed.
Does egregious mean bad?
Yeah, wasn't good.
Okay, well, it wasn't good. No. So when you have your missed tackles, again, coaching defense in this league for a long time as I have, that is a collective thing. It's also an individual thing. You emphasize tackling from day one. No, all of these guys can tackle, or they wouldn't have reached this level. But to have a team, I think what they have 15 official missed tackles. That's by far way too many, and that just accelerates any problem that you're having. So you can bet that he's addressed that. He's addressed that in the meeting rooms, and they've addressed that on the field. Now, but it's a mindset because all of these players know how to tackle, and so you just got to address the urgency of the mindset, because if you, as a group, start to falter like that defensively, it can really crush a defensive performance.
Coach Dave McGinnis here with us. Titans Radio on the call, of course, on Monday night. The kickoff is 6:30 Central Time, local. 3HL will have pregame coverage, and I'll be down in Miami with everything that's going on. Mac, I know they haven't put Awuzie on injured reserve just yet, but Callahan continues to tell us that that's the plan. That's in all likelihood that's going to happen. We've got Jarvis Brownlee coming up in about 10 minutes on the show with us. What do you like about him? Because fair to expect if Awuzie does go on injured reserve, that Brownlee would be the beneficiary of an opportunity there.
I just like his mindset. I mean, I liked him when I vetted him in the draft. I like his mindset. I mean, he's a guy to me. I've compared him as far as a young guy that has a mature mentality, kind of like McCrary was when he came in here. He wasn't overwhelmed by it. Now, there's still a lot to learn. Time on task at any position in the National Football League is important, but there's some guys that are a little bit more ready for it than others mentally. This guy is. He's a very, very tough individual. Hey, he had some missed tackles too, but last week. But this guy, I trust him as far as his approach as to what he wants to do, and so it'll be a big test for him. I mean, all of a sudden, you don't get much time anymore in the National Football League. You used to have a little bit of time as to where you could soak up some experience in the National Football League. That's not the way the league is anymore. So I know that he's looking forward to it, and I'm looking forward to watching him when he's in there.
You know, Mac, I'm glad that you brought up the idea of getting time for young players to develop, because I saw a really good bit of analysis from Kevin O'Connell, the Vikings coach, on Rich Eisen's show yesterday, where he's talking about organizations are failing young quarterbacks before young quarterbacks fail organizations. Now, obviously, he's talking very specific positionally, and we've talked about how much geography matters for any young player, specifically that position group. Do you think that there's ever going to be a course correction with the way that the league is handling young players as far as those opportunities, or is it just the way that this thing is going to go for the foreseeable future with young guys getting pushed out there before they're ready?
Well, that's the way it's morphed, and it's morphed with that. Once free agency and salary cap came into being, because once that happened, and plus you start when you start drafting guys now, but you're flipping 30% of your roster, and teams that haven't won a lot of games are drafting higher. I mean, they're expecting. We're talking quarterbacks now. Guys taken in the top 5 part of the draft are going to be instant success guys. They're going to instantly elevate everybody. That's not the way this works, but that's the way it is now in the National Football League. Everybody's leash is shorter now in the National Football League. When you used to be hired as a coach, you'd get 5 or 6 years to get it working because you had a same group that you could develop. That's not the way it is anymore. It's also not the same way for player development anymore. You'll see some guys that'll bounce around to 2 or 3 teams before they finally have gathered enough experience to be able to start being successful with what they're doing. But that's the way of the world right now in the National Football League.
He's Coach Dave McGinnis. His visits are presented by the South's most trusted Ford dealer, Two Rivers Ford. Of course, they also make Mac Talk possible, where you get the opportunity to call in and chop it up with Rhett Bryan and Coach Dave McGinnis. The Titans radio crew in Miami on the call. I know it's Coach Mac's favorite radio booth in all of the NFL. Miami is a terrible setup.
It's a beautiful sight line. It's a beautiful sight line. It's exactly opposite because you're on the opposite side of where the television is. So, again, I'm fortunate to be up there with such a pro as Mike Keith, because he's able to do it perfectly, calling the game backwards. So I just follow his lead.
It's between that one and the London press box that we were in last year, Mac, for the 2 worst. I don't understand how the hell you guys did the game in those 2 spots.
Yeah, you do. You just go. You do it. Plus, just like what you said, we know what it is going in, so we're ready for it.
Yeah, that's why they're the best. Coach Mac always visits with us on Friday, and like I said, his visits across the station are presented by Two Rivers Ford. See you in the booth, Mac.
See you in Miami. See you, Lucas. See you guys.
Hey, Coach.
That's the main man, Coach Dave McGinnis. Jarvis Brownlee Jr., the rookie corner. He's next. Welcome back to the show. We are fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken. 615-737-1045 is the number. If you want to get in right now on the phone line, we've got Jarvis Brownlee Jr., the rookie Titans corner, who's been seeing a little bit of action here of late, expects to do more of the same when he gets to make a bit of a homecoming on Monday Night Football. Jarvis, thanks for hopping on, bud.
No problem. Appreciate y'all for having me.
Absolutely. So the thing that I enjoyed most about you, because we're still getting to know you guys as a rookie class, obviously, and getting to talk to you on draft night via Zoom. I know you couldn't see us, but obviously we could see you and the excitement and everything that was going on there. The way that you talked about how far you felt like you slid based on other corners who went before you in the draft, and the way that was going to drive you is something that's stuck with me. And, it's evident every time you get out there on the field that you play with that kind of passion and aggression with every snap. How much do you carry that with you through these new opportunities? Because now there's a little bit of a poetry to the idea of you getting to make a kind of a debut almost in your hometown.
Yes, sir. I think I see it as a chip on my shoulder, so I carried it a lot with me. I try to hold that on my mind every day, just to help with my work ethic, to just know what I'm striving for and what I'm pushing for, and knowing that, each day just try to progress and get better and better each day.
And so, where have you needed that motivation, I guess, in your rookie year, right? Because it's, there's constantly different things that are being thrown at you, whether it's a different city, new teammates, all these different things. And now you're a couple weeks into or I guess a couple months into the process since you've been officially drafted here. Where have you kind of needed to lean on that motivation throughout the early going of your rookie season?
I'll say now, for me, I think the biggest thing is just playing with great eyes, technique, and just finishing, and just always expect the ball to come to me each play. And these guys that rode behind me, man, they helped me a lot. They pushed me to a certain limit, held me to a certain standard. And, it's nothing I could do better than that. And these guys, man, they bring the best out of me every day. And as long as they keep standing on me, which I'm going to stand on myself, I think everything will work out for itself.
You excited to play at Hard Rock? It's got to be cool for you, yeah?
Of course.
So you grow up in Miramar, and obviously not that far from Miami, not that far from the stadium. What can you tell people about what it was like to grow up in your hometown and coming up through football the way that you were able to, obviously turn it into a successful college career and now a professional career?
Man, my story, I think it was great, man. I went through a lot of adversity as a kid, even in my career. But, that didn't stop me one bit. As hard as it got, the more I fought, the more I worked, the more work I put in. And, I went through a tough situation when I was young, and I think that played a big part of my life. So when I went through that, I think, I just had a vision that where I wanted to go, and nobody was going to stop me. But, man, it's great growing up in Miami. You get to see a lot of different experience. And, it's tough down there. You have your struggles a little bit. Some struggle more than others. But, man, I think, it just bring that dog out you. It just bring that chip on your shoulder, just seeing what your mom go through on a daily basis or your family members, and things are tough. And, you want to be the one to put your family in better situations or environments. And that's kind of how I grew up. Just seeing my mom, go to work and just bust up behind, day in and day out. And for me, man, I just wanted to, just give back to her for all the work she's put in order to get me here, in order for me to be successful that I am, And, she's the real MVP, man. So growing up in Miami, I say it's great. It's tough sometimes, but I think, everybody face adversity through their life. So, yeah.
And I don't want to pry, Jarvis, so if you don't want to disclose any more than you just did, obviously you don't have to, but I'm just curious for the audience, because when you say adversity, that's a bit of a nebulous thing, right? I don't think a lot of people, and including myself, I have no concept of what it is to grow up in Miami beyond, going down there to see friends at Key Biscayne and vacation and stuff like that, right? So when you talk about adversity, can you give a little more detail as far as that?
Of course. Everybody, when they come to Miami, it's South Beach. That's what they see Miami for. But when you cross the other side of that bridge, I think it's a totally different ball game. You see a lot of kids shouldn't see. You see a lot of violence and things like that. But I think around the age of 10 to 11, I was in a drive-by shooting to where I got hit in my foot. And when the detective came back the next day, he also told my mom that it was 10 bullets on the passenger side, which where I was sitting, and there was 3 on the driver's side. So, man, I think after that day, I think that's the first day I started believing in God, even though, I didn't know about the whole thing. My mom, my grandma, they big on going to church. So my grandma is a Christian. So I was in church a lot. But, man, I think that's when it really hit me that God was real. And that's the adversity that I really had to face, and just being able to speak about it now, then where it was way harder for me back then where I couldn't talk about it at all. But that's the type of adversity I faced when I was young. I faced a lot in my college career when I was at Florida State. A lot of people said negative things about me or spoke on situations that they didn't know about. But, man, I just kept striving and knew that it would get greater later. But, man, just never giving up, no matter the circumstances or the outcome or how it's looking. I just learned to always keep going because, it get greater later. And it's no successful story without a struggle. So, man, I think that means a lot to me.
Just the idea of having to go through all of those emotions and compartmentalize all that mentally at such a young age, Jarvis. That's why I appreciate, and thank you so much for sharing that, because of course I can't imagine it's easy to relive or kind of remember some of those moments, but that's not an experience that the vast majority of people have, as I'm sure you know.
Yes, sir.
Jarvis Brownlee Jr., Titans Corner here with us on 104.5 The Zone. So the opportunity for you guys to get on the right side of the win column coming up in Miami. It's a big test, obviously, with these skill guys. But you have put together, not just you, obviously, as a part of this draft class, but coming in with a lot of different talented pieces and parts that have looked good. I know that the Green Bay game wasn't the best showing for you guys collectively as far as missed tackles and missed opportunities and stuff like that. But what do you like about this opportunity specifically, and why do you feel like you guys are particularly prepared to face the Dolphins this week?
I think every week, you got another opportunity to showcase, what you guys are about. And the biggest thing for us, I think, is just, staying together and not letting the outside break us apart. But, I think I really like our game plan. I like what the scheme we put in. But, man, for us, man, I think it's just, having that confidence in the guy that's next to us and believing that he's going to have my back and we're going to have each other back. And I think that's the biggest thing when going into Miami Monday night is just sticking together and knowing that, we're going to test another test, and this time we just got to pass the test. But overall, I think it's just about everybody having that confidence that the next man or the next team is going to have their back. And I think if we do that, then, we'll get on the winning side of the caliber.
As obviously you have self-confidence in yourself as a human being and as a football player, but when you hear somebody like L'Jarius Sneed, who's won championships at the highest level, compliment you and your effort and your style of play and almost make comparisons between you and him based on where he was drafted coming out of college and what he's gone on to do, how gratifying was that for you to hear? Because I know that was maybe a couple of weeks ago when he mentioned that in a press conference with us.
And it was just amazing and great. Sneed is a guy that I looked up to, before I even got into this league. He's a top guy in this league. He's good at what he's do. Well, he's great at what he's do. And he's a big brother that, that you could ask for. He always stay on top of me, making sure that my eyes are in the right spot, that I play with the right technique and that I'm always finishing. And, you know, more than likely, you know, even off the field when we're done with football, he just always checking on me, making sure that my head is right. You know, I'm in a good headspace. And just making sure that I got everything I need in order to be successful in this league. But just be productive every day when coming in here and just learning how to be a pro. And, man, I couldn't ask for nobody better than him. Like I said, man, I study his game a lot because I do think we have some similarities the way we play, both aggressive. And, man, I'm just great to be on his side and to have him by me and just to look up to him as a big brother and keep getting the knowledge from him, man. It's been great. And, you know, I plan on continuing just to keep doing that and just keep gaining all that knowledge that he has for me.
All right, Jarvis, we got some rapid-fire questions for you, and then we're going to let you get out of here, go to practice. You ready?
Yes, sir.
All right, give me the crappy game show music. Let's go.
All right, Jarvis, this is where the part of the show gets dumb. We'll call it what it is. But I do have a
Lucas
serious
thinks
question
I ask
for you.
boring questions, Jarvis, is what he's really trying to say. That's what he's trying to say.
That was great stuff, though. That was great stuff. I do want to ask you, though, about your Twitter account, at Jarvis Brownlee 3, for anybody that wants to go follow Jarvis. But above your Twitter handle, where you can, you know, have your display name, so to speak, I think it's interesting that you have the Joker card emoji, an X, and a gorilla emoji. Can you explain the significance of that on your Twitter account?
No, I always label myself as a gorilla just because I think that I play with a different edge and I play with that chip on my shoulder. You know, a lot of people call me a dog, but I call myself an ape. You know, I feel like an ape would demolish a dog, so I try to stand with the big guys, man, the big apes, man. But and the Joker is just for, you know, just a kind of personality characteristics to have, you know, when I'm on the field. And that's that laughing, angry type of emotions that I want to have. So I think that sums it all. But as you can see, a gorilla and a Joker they both two bad people.
It's a good combo.
That's what I like to be on the field.
Yeah, can't confirm that the gorilla would rip the dog limb from limb.
Without a doubt. Not many dogs that are going to stand up to that. So you're not really going to get a chance, obviously. You're in and out of Miami, so you're not going to get a chance to go out and about that much. But I am curious. I love Miami because of all the different cultures and the different foods you can get.
The food is so good, Jarvis.
Yeah, Cuban food, Brazilian food, whatever. What is the thing you miss most about the Miami food scene from your hometown?
Man, I think I miss it all. You know, we have a lot of places, or what I can say, a lot of food trucks that a lot of people don't have. So, man, a lot of food that we have down there, a lot of people don't get to see on the daily as we do. So, man, I miss our food every day.
Jarvis, I'm telling you, my first stop when I get down there is La Carreta on Bird Road. I'm fired up about it. I love Cuban food.
Okay. And then, you know, we got a lot of restaurants and stuff that a lot of people don't know about as well, you know, with that being South Beach, downtown, even Fort Lauderdale. But, man, it's so much places to go in Miami to eat. And I think that's what I miss the most, man, just being able to go around the city and try different things. And you never really get a bad taste for nothing for real. So it's like it's a win-win situation.
So you started your college career at Florida State and then transferred to Louisville. Big game on Saturday. Now, Buck is a poser bandwagon Notre Dame fan. And it's a huge game. Louisville going to South Bend. What are your Cardinals going to do to the Irish on Saturday?
I think we're going to do what we did last year, man. You know, we're going to give them all what they think we ain't going to give them. But I think it's going to be a good game. But, you know, man, I'm taking the Cards on top. I think we win by 14. But, you know, I'm going to try to give my guys a few tips because I did watch Notre Dame and I also played them last year. But I think as long as we stay in the run, I think we'll be good, man. I think we're going to go inside their territory and take over.
Do you have a bet planned already with Will Levis for the Kentucky-Louisville game at the end of the season?
Oh, not yet, but it's coming. It's coming for sure. You know, we can't stand Wildcats.
You know what? You and this show have that in common because I graduated from Indiana. Lucas is a Tennessee alum, and of course you, having played for the Louisville Cardinals and graduating there. We can all agree that Kentucky sucks.
Alignment.
You know, I'm wishing for a win on Kentucky, man. I ain't beat them when I was there, so I'm hoping we can get a win and finally, you know, break the little streak a little bit, man.
Absolutely. Jarvis Brownlee Jr. has been our guest. Jarvis, thank you so much for taking some time. We appreciate it and for sharing, some things that may not be the most comfortable, but I know the audience really appreciate it as well, just getting to know you a little better.
No problem. I appreciate y'all. I hope y'all have a great, blessed day.
You as well. That's Jarvis Brownlee Jr., the Titans rookie corner, getting ready to take on the Miami Dolphins on Monday night. You imagine? It is... like that, the reason I wanted to, I hope that it wasn't uncomfortable for him to talk about that kind of stuff. But like, people make a lot of jokes about Antonio Brown, right? Because of everything that Antonio Brown does now on social media and stuff like that. Can you imagine growing up homeless the way that Antonio Brown did in Miami, with Jarvis describing some of the atmospheres that he witnessed as a child and stuff like that? Like, I'm not going to pretend to know anything about that world, but so many of these South Florida football players, and, guys from New Orleans, like we've talked to Tajay about this stuff, and Jaquan Jackson, it's just a totally different reality than a lot of us experience on a day-to-day basis. And so I'm grateful to him that he was willing to share a little bit there, because I know that has to be traumatic and probably still is to an extent from time to time for him.
It's always cool to see guys that utilize that in the most positive way humanly possible, and Jarvis clearly has done that in what has been the start to a really promising career.
And he's going to smack my Notre Dame Fighting Irish around, this weekend? Tough scene.
Your Notre Dame Fighting Irish.
That's right, my Notre Dame Fighting Irish, unless they lose to Louisville, and then I'm an Indiana fan.
Coming up, Buck attempts to name 3 players currently on the Notre Dame roster.
I don't think I could. Let's go to break.
It is 12:02. Good afternoon. I'm Lucas Panzica from the 104.5 The Zone studios. The Titans do not play until Monday night in Miami. Injury report did come out yesterday. Cornerback Chido Awuzie did not practice with a groin injury. Brian Callahan said earlier this week that Awuzie will likely be placed on IR. Jeffrey Simmons missed practice with an elbow. DeAndre Hopkins and L'Jarius Sneed sat out due to rest. As the Titans are off on Sunday and the Vols are on a bye week, you can catch plenty of college football and NFL action all weekend long here on The Zone, courtesy of Sports USA Media and Westwood One. Nashville Soccer Club is at New England Revolution Saturday night, looking to draw closer to the Eastern Conference playoffs as they are 3 points back of the playoff line with 4 games to go. Pre-game coverage starts on The Zone at 6. Kickoff is at 6:30 tomorrow. For all your foundation repairs and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Final hour on this Friday is upon us. Welcome in. Thanks for hanging out if you've been doing so. Thanks for joining us. If you're just now turning on the radio or tapping in on YouTube, Facebook Live, Twitter, Twitch, where the show is also live streamed. If you missed the Jarvis Brownlee Jr. interview, thought it was a good one, you can revisit that via the podcast. The Titans corner who expects to start opposite L'Jarius Sneed in Miami on Monday night at this point. DeAndre Hopkins, coming off his most productive performance of the season against the Green Bay Packers, was not at practice yesterday. The Titans are